This is the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 Mark II. Released in May 2024, this lens was able to balance so many factors, from things like price to image quality and so much more. I've used this lens for around 5 months now in a variety of different types of work, from commercial to creative. So in today's video, I wanted to cover my 4 main reasons on why I think this lens is your perfect bang for your buck all-round lens that you can pick up in the market today. And at the same time, I'm going to note down and talk about some cons that I've picked up when using this lens. This video isn't sponsored by Sigma, nor have they paid me to say anything. I bought this with my own money, so you can rest assured that everything I'm going to say here is honest and open. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk about is the versatility. Now, I can understand that this isn't exclusive to this Sigma lens. However, having the range from 24-70 can cover you in almost any scenario. Being able to zoom out to something like 24mm is what I've found is a very perfect wide angle for a lot of commercial stuff. And then the ability to punch all the way into 70mm has always been amazing. Not only to mention having that fixed aperture of f2.8 from the range of 24 all the way into 70 is so good in a lot of things, especially low light photography and videography, but also creating a really nice depth of field and nice bokeh in your photos and videos. So will a lens like this, a 24-70, be able to capture those really creative and unique shots that you want to implement? Probably not. However, it is always there to capture a very safe and standard type of shot. So if you don't own any lenses whatsoever, the range from 24-70 can be a really great starting point. Now, I know what you're thinking, Ruben, I'm here to listen about the Sigma 24-70 Mark II, not all 24-70s. And I get you, but a lot of people who are looking for a new lens or their first lens maybe don't quite understand why this focal length is so important and so helpful for beginners. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about when it comes to this lens is the build quality and the features that come with it. This lens feels amazing to use. It's made out of a mix of metal and plastic, but doesn't feel cheap or anything. It feels like a really high quality, sturdy lens. Probably one of the most satisfying lenses I've ever used. Now, the weight of this lens is lighter than the Sigma 24-70 Mark I. However, it's still decently heavy, and I'll get into the weight a little bit later. Also coming in with an 82mm thread size, which is a very common thread size across lenses, which is perfect as, you know, it can fit on many of your lenses if you have multiple. There is a decent amount of barrel extension when zooming into 70mm, however, it's something that I really wouldn't worry about and you won't really notice that much. Now, when it comes to the features of this lens, however, it is jam-packed. The lens comes with 2 rings on it, one obviously being the focus ring at the very top and the other one being the zoom ring. Both are really smooth and satisfying to use, which is extremely helpful, especially in things like video when you're trying to pull focus smoothly, or maybe you're trying to do a slow zoom in or zoom out. Having a smooth zoom ring or focus ring is so helpful. Then the newest feature that they added in, which is the aperture ring. Now, I'm not going to go into my thoughts about the aperture ring right now. I'm going to do that a little bit later. However, it does go from 2.8 to f22 with an aperture auto feature, which means you can just then control it with your camera. There's a couple switches that help control it as well. There's a lock feature, which means that you can lock it on either auto, or you can lock it on being from f2.8 to f22. There's also a feature to turn on and off the click, so you can get a smooth aperture change, or you can have a click to it. Again, it's a super satisfying feature. Build quality on that is also insane. We also have 2 buttons on this lens which can be registered to different things via your camera. It could be focus holding, which is what I have. It could be switching in between APS-C mode and normal mode or something like that, which are really helpful. We have it in a landscape format and a vertical format, which is ideal. There is also a lock switch on the zoom ring, which means that when it's set to 24mm and you lock it, it will not move from 24mm, which is extremely helpful, meaning the weight of the barrel doesn't pull it down and out of the 24mm exactly. It stays where it is because sometimes the weight of the lens can be top heavy, so it will be pulled down and then inevitably zoomed in. It can also be really helpful when vlogging. I found that sometimes when I vlog with other lenses that are zoom lenses, I might accidentally zoom it in a little bit or zoom it out a little bit, which would mess up how I actually like to stay when vlogging. So being able to lock it at 24mm is really helpful. And lastly, pretty stock standard on a lot of mirrorless lenses is a manual focus to autofocus switch. Always great to have on a lens to switch back and forth easily if you're filming something quickly or you're on site filming a production where you need quick changing between them. Always great to have. And there are all the features. There's quite a lot. A lot of them are pretty stock standard, like the adjustable buttons, but things like the aperture ring and maybe the zoom lock aren't found too commonly on lenses like this. The next thing I wanted to go in and talk about is probably the reason why you guys are all here and the biggest reason for picking up a new lens, which is the image quality and the autofocus ability. Now, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. This lens is ridiculously sharp. I've shot a lot of different things with this lens, photo and video, and every single time it has performed more than I could expect it to. The image quality that this produces is truly next level. And I'm talking about from 24 all the way to 70mm. I've never noticed any sort of lack of image quality throughout that whole zoom. When it comes to things like chromatic aberration or vignetting, also haven't noticed much at all. And when it comes to the autofocus of this lens, it's fast, it's quick, it's responsive. It's obviously better than the Gen 1 Sigma 24-70. Now comparing it to something like the Sony 24-70 Mark II, obviously it's not going to perform as good as it because it is a third-party lens, meaning Sony cameras obviously will work better with Sony lenses, the same that Canon cameras will work better with Canon lenses. If you attach something like a Sigma, a Tamron, or a Samyang onto a different body like a Sony, a Canon, or a Nikon, it's not always going to be as fast as it would be with its own native lens. So yes, the autofocus isn't going to be as quick as the Sony, but I've tried both of those lenses for quite a bit of time, and honestly, the difference is so minimal that I genuinely cannot justify paying another $1,000 just for that teeny bit increase in autofocus. If you're looking at just doing something like video, I can promise you this lens paired with an amazing camera is gonna be a perfect combination. Now, the very last thing I wanted to cover was the price. And again, there's not really much to complain about. With this lens coming in at only 1,800 Australian dollars for the features you get, the build of the lens that it is, the autofocus and the image quality, the price is unmatched. And I know to a lot of people who might be getting into photo and video and wanting to pick up a 24-70, $1,800 can seem like a lot, and it certainly is. This was not an easy thing to purchase for me especially, but the return that you can get on this sort of lens and the amount of amazing stuff that you can capture with this is so worth it. Comparing this to the Sony, of course the Sony is that little bit better. It costs more. It should be better. It's $1,000+ more. If you are an insane professional and you need the best of the possible best equipment ever, then sure, go with a Sony, go with the 24-70. There's nothing wrong. I love those lenses. I've used them before. They're great, they're sharp, they're truly amazing. They're like a zoom prime lens, honestly. Like, it's as sharp as a prime lens. But when you're looking at bang for your buck, you're looking at people who don't have $3,000 to splash on a 24-70, then I would 100% go for this lens. Now, I do love this lens very much, and it probably has been the best piece of equipment that I've bought for my kit ever. However, I do think it's important to go over a few of the cons and the negatives that I've noticed when using this lens. And when it comes to the cons, there really aren't many at all. This is me being super picky, so keep that in mind. The first thing was the weight of the lens. Now, I know it's lighter than the Mark I, it's only a teeny bit heavier than the Sony G Master Mark II. However, doing things like vlogging or content creation can be difficult with a lens that weighs this much. Personally, I am also a content creator just as I'm a videographer and photographer, so picking up something like this purely for vlogging purposes or purely for content creation purposes might not be the best call. Obviously, vlogging at 20mm isn't the problem, but rather the weight of the lens can get really exhausting after a long period of time. Again, it's not the end of the world, but just a heads up. If you're looking for something to vlog with that's, more reliable and lighter, then I'd recommend checking out the 16 to 28mm from Sigma, the f2.8 version, the one that I'm using right now. I actually recently picked up this lens, and I'll be making a review on it very soon on this channel, so keep your eyes out. And the other con that I wanted to talk about, it's not really even a con, but I just think it was a bit unnecessary, was the aperture ring. Now, I can understand that when shooting video it can be helpful, you can get smooth transitions between different f-stops, and you can expose your shots a lot easier that way. However, I just don't think it was that necessary of an addition to the lens. I find myself using the auto feature way more and just controlling it on my camera. But then again, I think this con comes down to personal preference way more. That's kind of it with the cons, honestly. I haven't really noticed too many with this lens. It's always been there, it's always been super reliable, and personally, I think it's the best all-round, most reliable and versatile lens that you can pick up on the market today for a mirrorless full frame camera. Obviously, again, do your own research, figure out what you actually need in a lens compared to what you think you might want, and then go from there. But always keep your eyes open on this lens. It's an amazing lens, has served me amazingly on all sorts of shoots. Again, I've done stuff with clients, commercially, film sets, would it be photography, anything. I've used this lens in all those sort of scenarios, and it's never let me down once. Again, if you have any sort of questions or queries or suggestions for future videos, whether it be questions on this lens specifically, this video, or anything in general, then let me know down below. Peace, guys.